If you haven't watched part two, go back and watch part two. At least the last minute or so. Ooh, coffee's ready. This episode of IKE Sermons is brought to you by the Smoke of the Week, Lexapro Luther.
You going home now? Boom boom, not so good now, huh? 4th of July scare you now. Lexapro Luther be your battle buddy. Lexapro Luther tastes like depression and the flower of extreme anxiety. Lexapro Luther. You what for breakfast now?
As I said, I lost trust in all forms of authority. But my dumb ass didn't lose trust in my pullout game. Baby on the way at 19. I had a shit job, but it wasn't going to support no baby. So what does someone with no trust or respect for authority do in that situation? Join the army. I needed money. And nickel and diamond weed out wasn't getting it. I needed that GI Bill for some schooling. Smarten my dumb ass up. So my girlfriend, now my wife, talked me into it. Sounded like a good idea. Let it be known I have mad respect for all my brothers and sisters in the military. Every branch. But the initial training is a mind fuck. It's like a dick in your ear straight to your brain with crunchy peanut butter for lube. And for those who don't believe that the racist shit people claim happens in the military, yes it does. Or the misogynist shit, yes it does. I saw shit. I was in the military. Now your friends and relatives who were in the military and deny these things, they deny them either because they turned a blind eye, don't know it when they see it, or were involved in such activities. When I was in, at least when I first got in, the days of the instructors being able to lay hands on you were over. Yeah, they were over. I remember at least one trainee getting taken into the drill sergeant's office. And I heard walls and lockers getting slammed around. I heard a grown man crying. Man coming back into our bay a little while later, very red-faced and totally silent. There was at least one, what we call a blanket party, that I knew about. If there were others, I had nothing to do with them. But it wasn't the whole Full Metal Jacket thing, holding the guy down so he can't scream and beating him with bars of soap in your socks. This was a cover his face and his mouth so he couldn't scream. Dropping his underwear and plucking his pubic hairs out one by one. Did I have anything to do with it? I'm not at liberty to discuss such operations more than I already have. I'm not going to drop any names, but we had one trainee that the drill instructors, pardon me, that's Marines, the drill sergeants had a hard-on for fucking with, so bad that he began wetting his bunk every night. And when the drill sergeants came around to inspect bunks after we had gotten up and made sure you could bounce a quarter off of them, of course they'd find his piss and they'd toss his bunk and they would take his mattress and throw it out the window. And we were on the second floor. We got made to run miles without water whenever somebody would fuck up. We got punished as a unit, which I understand. But these guys had a hard-on, absolute hard-on for fucking us up. They actually came under investigation for trainee abuse. That means the Army itself said, we're making these guys tougher, but you're getting carried away. This story I find amusing, even though I was the victim of this one. We had NBC training. NBC stands for nuclear, biological, and chemical. So we were being trained how to use our gas masks and to learn how to trust that they worked. So there was a hut that we had to go in, excuse me, and in the middle of this hut was a big coffee can with a substance called CS gas in it that was burning. It's basically riot tear gas, okay? The same type of shit they use in Jamaica. And we all had to don our masks, make sure they were sealed, and go inside. And you go inside and it's just a thick cloud, okay? You could see people, but it's a thick cloud, kind of like the shit you see here. And the drill sergeants also had their stuff on. Now, on top of our gas masks, we didn't have to wear our steel pots. This was the days before the Kevlar helmets. But we had to wear the helmet liner, which was plastic, so the steel pot wasn't so hard on your skull. So we had that on top, and what we had to do was stand in formation, and the drill sergeant would come by each person and tell you all clear, which means you had to take your your helmet liner off and then remove your gas mask. And then they would ask you a couple questions and you were allowed to leave out the back door. So they got to me and the drill sergeant said all clear. I took my helmet liner off and then I ripped my mask off. And my face felt living hell. This gas irritates the skin pretty bad. And it's even worse when you just shaved that morning, which we had to do every morning, and instantly had repellent ropes coming out of your nose. I mean, snot just hanging down to here. Like instantly. It's crazy. And you're drooling and your eyes are on fire. And then I'm waiting so I can leave. Where's my question at? Where's my question? What the fuck? And that same drill sergeant comes back to me and says, where the fuck is your helmet liner? And I realized I had dropped it. So I went to pick it up and that little fucker kicked it across the room. So I'm looking around desperately. I see it. I run and grab it. And then I run out the back door. narrowly missing a very large tree. I did, however, get some joy in my suffering, as there were several guys who ran smack dab into that tree trying to get the fuck out of there. This was Fort Knox, Kentucky, for anybody going into the Army. And if your training's at Fort Knox, Kentucky, when they send you to the gas chamber, watch out for the tree, buddy. So we're all standing there flapping our arms like birds to get the dust off of you, and keeping your eyes open so they could dry out. All these different things to get the effects of the gas off you quicker. And it seemed like it was taking a really long time, so we were all like, what the fuck? Can we get the fuck out of here or what? We're done. Let's go. Turns out there was this other trainee in a different platoon who was literally from Jamaica and had been exposed to tear gas a good portion of his life. So it was having virtually no effect. And what the drill sergeants did was hold his face directly over that coffee can for like 5 minutes until he started feeling the effects. So we had to wait for that to happen. Anyway, I made it through boot camp, and I was stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia, with all the prejudiced rednecks who all seemed to hate my dual ethnic ass and tried to fuck with me constantly. But you couldn't just jump up and fight them like I could on the block. You're government property. You're more of a number than a name. I also did 13 months in South Korea, Camp Casey, Dongducheon, about 14, 15 miles south of the DMZ. I'm not going to go into that one. There were good times and bad times, but that was my last tour before I ETS'd at Presidio, California. I remember leaving Korea on a plane. It was daylight, and it was an 18-hour flight over the Pacific Ocean. And I remember that night being asleep. It was a very large plane. And I remember being jostled out of my sleep by some pretty heavy turbulence. It was bad enough where I woke up and did this. Okay? And I knew it wasn't a dream because every other motherfucker on that plane was doing this. Eventually that turbulence calmed down and we went back to sleep. And the next day, we're getting ready to land in California. And a voice comes on the intercom and it's talking about, we're pretty much there, but that when we took off from Korea, an unidentified object fell off of the plane. And they didn't tell us then because they didn't want to panic for 18 hours. But that we should all prepare for an emergency water landing. The stewardesses pulled out those little life vest thingies and were showing us all how to blow them up. And I'm like, really? This is how I'm going to go out? Fuck it, let's get it over with. And then all the stewardesses got in their little special seats and were strapped in, and it looked like they were trying to be calm, but you could kind of see like they were thinking the same thing I was. Really? Like this? So we're coming in, and the next thing I know, we're over land. So for a second, I'm like, oh, good, no water landing. But then I'm like, wait a minute. If we don't land right, we're over land, dude. And I looked out the window, and the service drive on the side, there were fire trucks and ambulances just flying, trying to keep up with the plane. I guess just in case something happened. But we landed without incident. And, I couldn't wait to get off the plane. They finally let us all off. It was cool. But what sucked the most, I think, was that I had to catch 2 more planes to get home. Those both went fine, though, I'm glad to say. And I will also say that that was the last time that I've ever flown. So I was out then, but my wife was still in. And when she got back, we lived in Texas for a while, Fort Hood. And then my mother-in-law suddenly passed away at a young age. She was awesome, Mrs. Shirley. Thanks for watching my self-therapy. I almost feel better. Now, where's those pills?